So news broke today that Kevin Hart will be the 2024 Mark Twain Award recipient from the Kennedy Center, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. So I read this tweet on X, and it says, Kevin Hart leapfrogging so many other comics with decades in the game, male and female, to win the Mark Twain Award for Comedy at the Kennedy Center is very interesting. Garrett Morris, Marla Gibbs, Wayans family, and others were right there and so deserving. I will get to this tweet in a second. Sometimes I think I bang on Kevin Hart too much. Like, Kevin would never be on my Mount Rushmore of comedians, and I don't think Kevin will be in my top 10. But Kevin has a lot of fans. There's a lot of people who love Kevin Hart. And Kevin Hart is funny. He's just not my top. He's not one of my top people, but I've always respected his hustle. I always respected the work he's put in. I guess the thing that's kind of confusing is that he's gotten it so early. Maybe if Kevin Hart got this maybe in 2028, maybe I can say like, oh, okay, Kevin, even though it's another 4 years, I feel like it's a little bit too soon. And the Mark Twain Award is kind of interesting because sometimes they give it to people who are satirists, because Mark Twain is a satirist, but sometimes it's like a lifetime achievement award. So for instance, like Adam Sandler got it last year, I believe. Sandler is not a satirist, but Sandler's been around since first time I saw Sandler was on Remote Control on MTV. And then he was on SNL, and then he had those films like The Waterboy and Happy Gilmore, and he was great in those. And then he turned to more of a dramedy type actor, and now he's like he still does comedy, but he's like a full blown, really good dramatic actor now. So I can understand Sandler almost as a lifetime achievement award recipient. But then you have Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart received this the year before, I think, and he is a satirist. What he did on the Daily Show and still doing now is really in line with who Mark Twain really was. So it's always tricky who they choose every year, because sometimes, like, are they a satirist or not a satirist? Like, I don't know. But let's go to this post. Garrett Morris. Now, Garrett Morris, I think Garrett Morris doesn't get enough love because he's the first Black cast member on SNL. He's had a long career. He was on Martin. He was on Jamie Foxx's show. And he was on Two Broke Girls, which I still watch to this day when it's on. And I think it's not really Garrett's fault that the writers on the show, and especially Lorne Michaels, did not put him in the best position to be like Gilda Radner and John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray. I mean, Garrett was on there, and he did what he could, what he was given, but I don't think Lorne Michaels treated him as well as he should have. Thank God that Lauren left the year before Eddie Murphy got there, because first of all, I don't think Lauren would have ever casted Eddie, and two, I don't think Eddie Murphy would have dominated SNL if Lorne Michaels was there. I'm not saying that Lorne Michaels doesn't promote his Black comedians on there, like, Kenan Thompson's been there forever, Chris Rock was on there, but there's never been an Eddie Murphy on there. And then when you hear someone like Godfrey, who was on Shay Shay and said he auditioned there 3 times and people loved him, but he couldn't get on the show. And who else was on there? Like Damon Wayans was on there. He wasn't utilized that much to finesse the comedian. He was on there and he wasn't utilized that much. Jay Farrell was magnificent on there, and they did not utilize Jay Farrell as much as they should have. So, but that's a whole different discussion. So Garrett Morris is great. I just don't know if he's a Kennedy. I don't know if he's a Mark Twain winner. Marla Gibbs, hey, she was Florence on the Jeffersons. She did 227. People love Marla Gibbs. But again, I don't know. I can't put Marla in the same category like Whoopi Goldberg, right? Because Whoopi has a Mark Twain award. So this brings us to the Wayans family. Kennan Ivory Wayans alone deserves this award before Kevin Hart. But if you're talking about the Wayans family as a collective, absolutely. All this started with Robert Townsend and Kennan, because Robert directed Eddie Murphy's Raw, and Kennan and Robert helped write Raw. Robert and Kennan did the Hollywood Shuffle. Robert and Kennan did Partners in Crime. Robert Townsend's Partners in Crime on HBO. Then Kennan did I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. Kennan did In Living Color. And then he had his own string of films, and then he started directing. He did White Chicks with his brothers. He did the Scary Movies with his brothers. Little Man. Like, all that stuff alone, Kennan Ivory Wayans deserves deserves that award. But as a family, you got Damon. Damon was an excellent stand-up when he was younger. My Wife and Kids is one of the most underrated family sitcoms ever. He's great on that. And then you got Shawn Marlon. Shawn Marlon had the Wayans Brothers. That's still hitting hard in syndication. They did White Chicks, Scary Movies, Little Man. So as a collective, the Wayans are probably the most successful family in comedy. They're probably the most successful family in comedy, but they might be one of the most successful families in Hollywood ever. Now you can debate, you got the Barrymores and all that stuff, but I think as a whole, it might be the Wayans. If you just look at box office and their impact on TV and film, it might be the Wayans. So yeah, I think the Wayans family deserves that before Kevin Hart. Even Robert Townsend too. Like Robert Townsend, like I said, Raw, Hollywood Shuffle, Partners in Crime, Five Heartbeats. He still directs today, and he also has a foundation where he helps younger directors and filmmakers get known. I think it might be almost like a little type Sundance type situation. You hear that, Tyler Perry? Like somebody's actually helping other filmmakers. But yeah, Robert Townsend alone deserves that before Kevin Hart. So it's tricky, right? Like because I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's like, man, like Larry David doesn't have one of these. Seinfeld doesn't have one of these. And I wonder if it's a case of they go to these guys and gals and say, hey, would you like to be honored for the Mark Twain Award? And if they say your name, because it's hard to believe that Kevin Hart got his before Seinfeld and Larry David. It's hard to believe. So I don't know what the process is when it comes to selecting people. But hey, man, congrats to Kevin Hart. He puts a lot of work in. Like I really enjoy like his Cold as Balls interview show on YouTube. I really enjoy his interview show that he has on Peacock. He got a string of classics. I mean, I won't say classics, but he had a string of comedies. He had Get Hard with Will Ferrell. He had Ride Along with Ice Cube. He had Central Intelligence with The Rock. Like, Kevin Hart is really talented. He might not be my absolute favorite, but I respect that dude a lot. It does make me wonder what Cat Williams would think right now about him getting this award. He might say, I'm not one to talk about anybody, but I'm sure if I kissed a man in film, I probably would get that Mark Twain Award too. But I'm not talking about anybody. I'm just saying that that's not something I would do. Yeah, I just want Cat Williams to come back on Club Shay Shay just to answer that one question. How do you feel about Kevin Hart getting the Mark Twain Award? But what do you think? Who do you think should receive the Mark Twain Award? Because a lot of people's already got it. Eddie Murphy's gotten it. I think Steve Martin's gotten it. Like Whoopi Goldberg's gotten it. I think Tina Fey's gotten it. I think Jim Carrey probably deserves it. Like, Jim was that dude. So I think he deserves. He might be one of those people that they asked and he turned it down. I don't know. But yeah, who do you think deserves the award? Who do you think is an underrated comedian that put a lot of work in? I think George Carlin got one before he died. And I think that's one of the criteria. You have to be alive. So it can't be someone that's already passed away. So, hey, congrats, Kevin Hart. I'm going to be tuning in because they used to show on the PBS. And it might be another thing, too. Like maybe if it's still being shown on PBS, it's about ratings. Sometimes it's not the best comedian who get these awards. It's who brings in the best ratings.